Good evening from Chicago. My name is Sam Ritchie, and I am the Associate Director of Admissions for the PA program here at Northwestern. I am grateful to have you here in attendance tonight. Thank you for giving me part of your afternoon or evening as we share a little bit about our curriculum and culture here at the program. I'm very excited for you to meet some of our current students, first and second year. That's coming up later in the program. Just want to say here on CASPA Day, to all of you out there who are applying this cycle, good luck to you. We'd love to see your application here at Northwestern. So here's the deal, gang. I'm going to present for the next half hour or so, give you an overview of our program and curriculum. Then we'll bring in our student panelists. I'm going to ask them a few questions, then I'm going to open it up for you all for open Q&A. I'll be our moderator and I'll ask them questions on your behalf. Looking forward to it. Excited to get started. So let's go. Well, once again, welcome. This is a Zoom webinar. If you've never participated in a Zoom webinar, no problem. Just a few things about this. So you will not be able to use video or come on video. You also won't be able to speak to us, but you absolutely can ask questions. There's a Q&A feature as part of the webinar, sort of like a chat, and then those questions queue up for us and we'll be able to see them and answer them, and then we'll publish them after that. You can ask questions anonymously, you can do it under your screen name, whatever you prefer. Now, I wish we could answer all the questions, but I know there are going to be more questions than we're going to have time for, or probably. So that's just the limitation of this event, but we have a way where you can ask questions via email, of course, and we're happy to help that way too if we don't get to your questions tonight. And then tonight's session is exclusively about our curriculum and culture student life. Admissions is obviously a very important topic, an essential one, but that is not going to be the focus. So our policies, our timeline, our requirements, all of that, that is a separate session. And I hold that on a monthly basis live. And then even better, maybe because of the timing, I have a recorded version of that session and a session similar to the one we're doing tonight on curriculum and culture on the website. So that's available for you on demand whenever you'd like it. So I have to start every presentation with our students. So just to give you an idea of where we're at, we're almost done with our academic year. So these guys right here, the class of 2026, they're going to graduate in about a week and a half on Saturday the 9th. So we're so excited for that day. Those are our second year students. And then our first year students are about to complete their didactic year and they'll move on to clinical year here starting on June the 1st. So tonight's agenda. I'll give you an overview of our program at a very high level, mention some resources that you can use moving ahead, and then I'll talk about our program, our mission, our curriculum, of course, that's the main dish tonight, and then a little bit about our community here at the program. Then I'll welcome in our student panelists for their insights and advice for you. You can always reach us here at NUPA at paprogram@northwestern.edu. So a few things about our program. Again, high level here. We have accreditation continued status. We earned that status, or that was renewed in 2023, and that was extended for the full 10-year window through 2033. More information about that on our website or on the ARC-PA website, which is the accrediting body. We, the Northwestern Feinberg School of Medicine and the PA program, are located in downtown Chicago. There's also an Evanston, Illinois Northwestern campus that's located about 10, 15 miles north of here. That's where the undergraduate program and many other programs are, but we're downtown here in the heart of the city. Our program is a 24-month program, so 2 years. First year in the classroom, didactic, second year on clinical rotations. We're full-time, we're in person, and there are no online or part-time options for our program. We award our grads a Master of Medical Science degree, and we start once a year, either at the end of May or the very beginning of June. We have a June 1 start date coming up here this year. We have a current class size of 42 students. We're one of several programs at the Feinberg School of Medicine. There's an MD program, physical therapy. I'll talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes here. And then we have an affiliation with Northwestern Medicine. So if you're not from Chicago or the Chicago area, think about a major hospital system in the region or city where you live. That's Northwestern Medicine here in Chicagoland. The downtown flagship hospitals were right here across the street, but also a whole network of clinics and hospitals throughout the Chicago metro area. And we have relationships with them. Their clinicians come help lecture for us as guest lecturers, And then our students complete many of their clinical rotations within the Northwestern medicine system, which is one of the top ones in the United States. Northwestern is a private institution, so all of our students pay the same tuition and fees, and we do not give preference in admissions to residents of Illinois or on the basis of any factor, including residency. We don't provide housing to our students, but we will help you by conveying advice from our current students to our incoming class. And there are many options here in Chicago. You can learn more about the cost of attendance and tuition on our website under admissions via the top navigation. Let me take a minute to highlight a few resources that you can use to learn more about us and get a better idea of what the curriculum and student life is like here at our program. Our website, if you just search for Northwestern PA program, you'll find us. Great resource, especially for admissions information. You can find us on Instagram and follow us. NUPA program is the main account. Our students have an account, and then one of our student organizations does as well. So if you're on the gram, please give us a follow. I have student profiles on our website. That's only some of them, and I refresh these every year. Gives you an opportunity to get to know our students, where they're from, what they studied, why they're here. And then last, I have a virtual campus tour. There's a link to it on the homepage of our website. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, if you visit Chicago, you can come wander around campus as well. We're right on the northern end of downtown Chicago. So just to give you a visual of that, here's where we are. In the foreground here is Lake Michigan and the world famous Navy Pier Ferris wheel. So we're right on the Academic Medical Center campus, surrounded by four major hospitals, right again on the shore of Lake Michigan. And that central location gives us the opportunity to leverage all of that clinical strength. You're also right here in the heart of the city. So much to do, see, and eat here. It's a great place to be, whether that's for 2 years or an entire professional career. So, all right, now on to the main event. I'll talk briefly here about our mission. So this extends from the moment, we read an application all the way through to how we engage with our alumni many years after graduation. We're looking to train high quality patient care providers who will work collaboratively on interprofessional teams. These folks are going to be culturally sensitive in the way that they provide patient care. They're going to be committed to ongoing learning throughout their careers as PAs. And then also, we're looking for people who are going to give back to their communities, professional and personal, over time. Once they get their footing as a PA, we want folks who are going to give back to the PA community and to their own communities where they work and live. All right, so our curriculum breaks down into 2 years. Again, 24-month program. First year, the didactic or classroom year, you have 3 academic trimesters, and we use what I'll call a blended curriculum. So if you look at that pie chart, a mix of lecture, which is about half of the learning, lab, which I'll define here in a minute, includes cadaver-based anatomy lab, and then problem-based learning or PBL. This is small group work with your classmates. So a mix of modalities or styles. We follow what's called an organ system approach. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Full year of cadaver-based dissection anatomy. And because we do a lot of small group work, we have a really strong first year student to faculty ratio of just under 5 to 1. So that's at a high level what the first year looks like. What kind of classes are you going to be taking? This is a busy slide, but let me help you make sense of it. At the top left there, during the entire first year, you're going to take all of those courses. So in every academic term, you'll have anatomy, you'll have physiology, you'll have patient assessment where you learn physical exam skills and patient interview skills, etc. So those are constants of the first year. On the right side at the top, those are courses that happen one time during the first year. So our first year students just wrapped up their medical Spanish course and another course called pre-clinical year preparation that does exactly what it says, prepare them for their clinical year ahead. And the bottom, what you see is the organ system approach in action. So for about 4 weeks, we devote most of our focus to a single human organ system. So I'm going to draw your attention to bottom left there, cardiology. So imagine spending 4 weeks where all you're really thinking about is cardiology. And now let me illustrate that for you. So in your anatomy course, you're looking at the cardiovascular system. You're looking at cardiovascular function and physiology. In behavioral and preventive medicine, you're talking about how to educate your patients about cardiovascular health and diet. In patient assessment, you're auscultating the heart. In clinical laboratory medicine, you're learning how to interpret an EKG. In pharmacology, you're talking about antihypertensive medications, maybe statins. And in problem-based learning or PBL, your small group casework, your patient will have a cardiovascular chief concern or concern. So that's how it works. You'll flow approximately 4 weeks at a time through all of the major human organ systems, focusing on that particular system for that block of time. So now, what is this problem-based learning or PBL? Well, it's small group work. 7 students and 1 faculty facilitator working together each and every week. This is a flipped classroom, so it's active learning, and you as the students will be the ones running the case once you get acclimated to the model over the course of the first month or so. Meets weekly, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 patient case each week, and it's the same case for all of the groups that are working independently. So your classmates who are not in your group, they're in another PBL group at the same time, working on the same case. Every 8 weeks, we rotate these groups. So you have a chance to work with different faculty members and different classmates. Although you get to know everybody extremely well, this just gives you an even better opportunity to work and collaborate with your classmates. So let me break that down just a little bit for you. On Monday, you're going to meet a virtual patient and learn their chief concern. Mr. Jones, 50-year-old male coming in with a headache. Before you even ask a single question, you're going to think through a very large differential diagnosis. What might be going on with our patient across all of the organ systems, a brainstorming session, if you will. And then you're going to conduct an interview with the patient via the platform DXR clinician that you see at bottom right. On Wednesday, when you come back together, you'll conduct a physical exam. You might order labs, diagnostics, imaging that will help inform your decision making. And then on the final day of the class case meeting for the week, you are going to work towards developing a diagnosis and treatment plan for your virtual patient. The 7th hour, the last hour of the class week in PBL, the entire class comes back together for a lecture called the wrap-up lecture that's either given by a faculty member or a guest lecturer with subject matter expertise, often someone from across the street at the hospital, sometimes one of our alumni, and they will bring the course together for all the groups and ensure that the learning objectives are all covered as a group. Now, one thing I didn't talk about that you see on that slide is this thing called a learning issue, or LI. So at the end of the class on Monday and Wednesday, the students will self-identify some gaps in their understanding of the case or their knowledge, and they'll assign themselves little research projects. And they'll come back in the next class meeting, and then they will give a brief presentation, 8 to 10 minutes, usually PowerPoint, and that will be germane to the case at hand. So let's imagine we're in the cardiology unit. So one student may give a brief presentation about the approach to heart failure management, another about diuretics, another about EKG findings in the case of a heart attack, etc., etc. These presentations teach you how to research a topic and then come present and share those findings in a coherent and efficient manner with your classmates. So that is the LI, or learning issue, which is a key feature of PBL. Often get the question, what does a first year schedule look like? Well, this is just a made up one, but it mimics more or less what we see here during the first year. Now, again, remember, a mix of styles: full class lecture, small group work, mostly problem-based learning, and then lab, which includes cadaver-based anatomy lab and a course called patient assessment, where you learn physical exam skills. You'll see it's a full week, and that's what we tell our students on an ongoing basis, just to prepare for a full business week of activity and learning. You'll see that activity on Monday afternoon. I'll talk a little bit more about ECMH when we get to that point in the presentation. It's not always on Monday, but it is a block of time in our schedule. There's always a dedicated lunch hour. There are never any evening or weekend courses during the first year. And then dress code for our program is casual, with certain exceptions. For example, your patient assessment course, where you're learning physical exam skills, sometimes you will need to dress in white coat for that. And on that very note, this is what that course looks like. You can learn a lot in the classroom, but you have to get hands-on and learn physical exam techniques and how to interview your patient. So that's what this course is designed to do. You'll be in the lab, so to speak, in our outpatient simulation facility on Tuesday mornings. We have a full year of cadaver-based anatomy here at the program that follows that organ system approach. So again, in cardiology, you're looking at the heart and the cardiovascular system. This is a highlight for us. It's on Thursday mornings, and we've been incorporating each year more and more point of care ultrasound into our clinical laboratory medicine curriculum. We actually just had a session the other day covering some key topics for students. You get to get hands on, learn the techniques under the guidance of our faculty and guests, practicing PAs and other clinicians who work out there in the field with ultrasound every day. So that's the first year. Second year at our program features 11 4-week clinical rotations. Seven of these are what we'll call core or required rotations. You'll complete these wherever you go to PA school. You see them there. At our program, again, they're 4 weeks long. And then our program has four electives, which is a large number of electives for PA school and certainly for a 24-month program. This is where our relationship with the Academic Medical Center and Northwestern Medicine is very valuable because medicine is being practiced at the top level here in the nation and in some cases the world here as part of the Northwestern medicine system. That opens a broad menu of options for our students. And our students complete a survey several months ahead of their clinical year that allows our clinical year team to know what their preferences and interests are. And that team will do the best job they can within the constraints to match your interests with your clinical year schedule. And it's surprising how often they can do a really good job at that, given all of the limitations that there might be in that setup. So our students are able to practice, see, observe medicine at a really high level here as part of the Northwestern medicine family. And just to give you a visual on some of the flagship institutions, Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Lurie Children's Hospital, the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab are all right here on campus. They're some of the top institutions in the nation. Shirley Ryan Ability Lab is the #1 physical medicine and rehabilitation and hospital in the world for over 30 years now. And then Northwestern Medicine, if you look at the bottom right, has several what are called regional hospitals. That one you see there is Lake Forest Hospital, located about 35 miles north of downtown Chicago. And our students complete rotations there. About two-thirds, 70% of the rotations for a given student will be within inside the Northwestern Medicine system. And then the remainder are at other hospitals or clinics that we have relationships with here in the Chicago area. You never, ever have to identify your own rotations. No program should ask you to do that. That's not allowed. Rest assured, our team is here for you and they're the experts, and we're going to build the clinical year schedule in collaboration with you. All required rotations for our program are located within 45, 50 miles of downtown Chicago. So you never have to commute outside of the Chicago metro area as defined there. But because you will almost certainly need to commute to the Chicago suburbs, you do need access to a car during your second year in the program. During the first year, you can definitely get by without a car. Chicago has a great public transit system, at least for the United States of America. If you are interested in creating, if you will, your own rotation based on a relationship you have, we do that too. So our clinical year team will work with you. Let's say you currently work as an MA at a clinic and you'd love to rotate there as an elective rotation. We will work with you to potentially make that happen. And every year that happens for several students. And then we have elective international rotations as well. And we're able to support these with grant funding, at least for most students, which covers often the majority, but not all of the cost of the international rotation. This is actually from 2025 when our students went to Bolivia, Mexico, and South Africa. Just earlier this year, we had students go to India and Belize as well, in addition to these locations here. These are 4-week experiences, again, elective rotations, and generally are community or family-based medicine. During your second year, you will develop and execute, under advising and guidance, a capstone research project. Please don't think of this as original research, although some of our students do embark on original research. That is not the goal of this course. You'll write about a 20-page paper, you'll present a poster. It really is for most students a literature review. What we are trying to accomplish here is to teach you to be a fluent consumer of the medical literature, to be able to assess the strength of clinical studies, share those findings with your colleagues, and then when the findings are shared with you, to make an assessment of them. So that's what the capstone course aims to do. Every year near the end of our academic year, just happened, we have a capstone research day where our students present their findings in a poster session to the community here. Speaking of community, I want to take a few minutes here to talk about our community here at the Feinberg School of Medicine and at the PA program. So just like the university that you attend or attended or plan to attend. There are an array of offices here at Northwestern that are designed and have a mission to support students and their well-being. We have all of those offices here. We're also very fortunate to be able to work with a learning specialist, a professional who works with our students and other students here at the Feinberg School of Medicine on studying techniques and exam taking techniques. So we teach you the medicine. This person can potentially counsel you and mentor you on those aspects of learning and performing. And then at the PA program level, we will assign you a faculty advisor before you start. You get to know all our faculty, but one of them will be your advisor. You're going to have a peer mentor, what we call a big sibling, a second year student who just completed the first year, who will be able to assist you and answer questions. And then a PA mentor as well, a working professional that you can connect with from time to time to ask questions about what is my life going to be like after PA school and I graduate and I'm out there seeing patients full time. Here at the Feinberg School of Medicine, there are a wide array of student organizations across every almost conceivable area, from affinity groups to performing arts like the orchestra. We have two of our students that play violin, community engagement, extracurriculars. You think of it, there's probably a club for that. It's probably closer to 90 at this point. And then at the PA program level, there's a student society, a student government. You'll elect officers during the first year, and then you'll be able to plan and execute events or other projects as part of that student society. Just to give you some visuals here, we've had our students participate in outreach to the local community, local junior high and high school and elementary school students. They volunteered at both the Chicago Marathon and Half Marathon. We had a fun nutrition activity during orientation last year. Last year, our students created the first PA level student organization called NUPA Rise, which is dedicated to representation and inclusivity in the PA profession. And here at the Northwestern PA program, they just held their annual symposium just a few weeks ago. I loved it. And then we try to find ways as much as we can to bring our students together, either between the classes, within the class, connect them with our alumni, give them opportunities to connect to the broader Northwestern community now that we have 15 going on 16 years as a program. A few other ways as I close here that you can connect with other students here at the Feinberg School of Medicine. So I mentioned at the very outset that we have 5 programs here at Feinberg. That's our program, PA. MD, it's the largest program, over 600 total students over 4 years. Physical therapy, one of the top programs in the nation. And prosthetics and orthotics, one of the oldest and most established programs in the nation. And then genetic counseling as well. We have structured programming with each of these groups during the first year and to some extent during the second year as well. And then during during both years actually, you will work alongside medical students. During the second year, often during some of your clinical rotations, and then during both the first and second year as part of our ECMH program, or Education Centered Medical Home. Now, think about that schedule I showed you about 10 slides ago. On one afternoon, there was ECMH. So what is this, right? This is an opportunity for you, starting in the first year of the program, to go out and start seeing patients and start taking care of them as part of team-based care. You're going to be working alongside medical students, maybe a fellow PA student, medical residents, attending physician, other healthcare professionals, and you're going to be assigned to a clinic here in the city of Chicago. It might be close to campus, it might be a few miles away. We'll pay for Lyft or Uber. What is the point of this, right? Number one, it's to get you out there doing what we're training you to do, right? And then it is to train you and to get you ready for your future scope of practice as a PA. Well, you'll be collaborating with others. You're going to put on that white coat when you walk in the door here or shortly thereafter. And at that point, you're no longer, an EMT or a CNA or a scribe. You are a future PA, and you're going to start assuming that scope of practice as a student. This gives you the opportunity to go out there, take care of real people with the support from preceptors and fellow students who have walked this path. So we call this the establishment of an early professional identity. All right, I'm going to sum up here. I'm excited for you to meet our panelists here in short order. Here are the things that I think make our program stand out from many other PA programs. We have a student-driven, small group, problem-based learning curriculum where you spend 6, 7 hours each week in the classroom collaborating working through a patient case during the first year is not only, we believe, a great way to learn medicine, but fun as well. We're one of only a few PA programs that has an affiliation with a top-ranked academic medical center, that is Northwestern Medicine and Northwestern Memorial Hospital in this case. Give you the chance to see patients starting during the first year as part of our ECMH program. We've been very successful at preparing our students to take and pass the national certifying exam. As you can see there, a good performance over the past 5 years. And then we have a relatively small program size with strong faculty mentorship and a good, as mentioned, student to faculty ratio. You get to know everybody here. I think it's one of the most refreshing things about PA education in general. You'll know all of your classmates, all of your faculty, and can have the opportunity to form some really strong relationships. And I must say, we're right here in one of the best cities in the United States, in the world, I dare say. That's Chicago, of course. And you're right here downtown. There's no commuting to go get to the stuff. It's all within reach here. And you can walk out the front door and be in the heart of the city here. I love it. And I think our students love it too, whether they're Chicagoans or they're joining us from across the country, which they do. So I want to say thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope that that presentation was helpful for you, and even more helpful is hopefully going to be the counsel, advice, and insights that our student panelists are going to give here. A reminder, you can reach out to us at any point at paprogram@northwestern.edu. I can't believe it. I'm exactly on time, everybody. All right, here's my preview for the panel and the Q&A. So I know, I want to answer all your questions, but I'm not going to be able to get to them, or we are not going to be able to get to them. We're going to do the best we can, everybody. They're going to queue up for us. So when you put that question in the Q&A, we do receive it. It just queues up for us. We'll publish them, or we can directly answer them via text in some cases too. Just know it's in queue for us, and we're going to try to get to it as best we can. But again, I'm going to have to select only some of the questions due to the format here tonight. If you have a question about admissions, like will this course count? Will my patient care experience count? What are the policies? What are the minimums? That is great. I have a separate session for that, and that is a question that could potentially be answered via email as well. So I'm going to try to focus our conversation as much as I can tonight on student life here at the program, because we have our students here. Our email address is there. I'll mention it probably one final time at the close of tonight's session. Once again, thank you, everybody. I'm going to bring in our panelists now and get them introduced to you. So thanks, everybody. You all can come on camera now. Hey, everybody. How's it going? How's your day?
How's
Pretty
it going,
good.
Sam? Pretty good.
All right. Well, I'm excited for you to meet everyone. We're going to start in no particular order. What I'm looking for is your name, of course, what year you are here at the program, where you're from originally, what you consider your hometown, where you went to school, and then just a little bit about your patient care experience before you started PA school. So, Hikari, I'm going to start with you. How are you?
I'm good, Sam. Hello, everyone. My name is Hikari. I'm currently a first year PA student at Northwestern University. I grew up in New York City and then did my undergrad at the University of Miami before moving here to Chicago. And then for my patient care experience, I was a medical scribe in urgent care and then a medical assistant in a physical medicine rehabilitation clinic that uses point of care ultrasound.
Outstanding. Thanks, Hikari. Bridget, you're up next.
Hi everyone, my name is Bridget. I'm a second year PA student. I was born and raised in the south suburbs of Chicago, around like the Crestwood area. I went to St. Xavier University. I double majored in biology and chemistry, and my pre-PA school experience was I was a ED tech for probably like 3.5 years, and then I also did research in the ICU.
Thanks so much, Bridget. Johnny.
Everyone, I'm Johnny. I'm a second year also student here at Northwestern. I grew up like an hour outside Portland, Oregon. I went to Oregon State University. I'm already forgetting.
Your
I
PCE. Yeah.
PCE, yes, sorry, long day. I was a neurosurgery MA for 4 years before moving to Chicago for PA school, and I think that was it, right?
Yep, you're all set. And I just want to say to both Bridget and Johnny, congratulations. The finish line lies right ahead. We're so excited for graduation a week from this Saturday. So, Noe,
Thank
how
you.
are you doing?
I'm good, Sam. We didn't have class today, so I'm feeling great.
I know,
Um,
I know. And on Caspa Day too, we celebrate it as a holiday here.
I just saw Johnny at the gym, actually. Good to see you again, Johnny. My name is Noe. I'm a first year. I'm from Las Vegas. I went to school at the University of Arizona, uh, Go Cats, where I studied physiology. And for my patient care experience, I went back to Vegas and worked as an EMT responding to calls around the city.
Excellent. Here's how it's going to work, everyone. You can put your questions in the Q&A chat they're already stacking up. Wonderful. I'm going to start us off. I'm going to ask some questions to our panelists. We'll get moving, and then I'm going to open it up for general Q&A. So Noe, I'm actually going to turn it right back to you. You're finishing your first year, reflecting back on a year of PBL. What are your impressions? What do you think?
PBL was such a unique and fantastic experience. Yeah, I think like the greatest thing about PBL is like right from day one, it had us thinking like clinicians. What do we think the patient has? What questions can we ask to narrow down, our ideas? What physical exam components do we want to do? What labs do we want to order? And because of that, like I feel like when we go on rotations here pretty soon, it's going to be like second nature to us. And already like in our ECMH, like I feel like I already have a flow down in how to like interview patients because in PBL we're doing that all the time. And then another thing too that I love about PBL is like with each like group that we're in, you get to learn more, like you get to interact with other classmates and like learn about them and connect with them and like some people like I don't get to interact with as much, but and then I'm in PBL with them and then I'm like, whoa, like you're awesome, like you're funny, like I'm glad I get to finally like interact with you. And then you get to know the faculty really well too, and they get to know you too. So great experience.
Love it. And I'm going to pivot right now to Bridget. Bridget, you're finishing your second year. How did PBL inform, shape your clinical year?
Yeah, it was, I mean, kind of to echo what Noe was saying. It really like trained me to think through the steps of like assessment, diagnosis, treatment. And it kind of taught me also how to work in a group. Um, and obviously as a PA, one of the main like foundational things of being a PA is teamwork and working as a group in like a clinical setting. So that was really great that you get to like kind of bounce ideas off your peers when you're in PBL, and I saw that kind of translating a lot into clinical year. The other thing that I didn't really know until I was actually doing it was that for PBL we do these things called learning issues, and it's where the group doesn't really quite know a lot about a certain subject that we're talking about. And so we have a learning issue where we kind of research about that and we will see what we can learn from it. And then we teach the other people in the group about it. That was awesome because in your didactic year, you learn how to find trusted medical resources that you can use for diagnosis and treatment. And I brought that into my clinical year by like when I had a question about something or a patient comes in and I'm not entirely sure what to do, I know exactly where to find these resources now. I know exactly which ones are trustworthy, and I thought that that was super super helpful going into clinical year.
Thanks, Bridget. Let me kick it over to Johnny now. Johnny was one of the students who did an international rotation. So first, tell us about that. And then what was your favorite non-international rotation?
Very loaded question. I'm trying to try not to ramble, but so I went to Cape Town, South Africa this January for the month for my global rotation. I actually lived with Bridget, worst roommate ever. Thing. It was amazing. But truly, it was an amazing experience. I think it was definitely a once in a lifetime experience. I think being able to experience the culture, very unique culture of South Africa through the medicine, and we both rotated at different hospitals. I rotated at a public hospital, so really seeing just like society and the social aspects of health, like just right there, was really unique. And I think just my biggest takeaway from that I think about a lot is just how resilient I think the healthcare system down there is, and I think we could learn a lot from that, and I definitely will like be thinking about that as I go into practice. And outside the hospital, it was just, I mean, it was amazing. The weather was great. It was summer down there. There was so much to do outside of the hospital. We were at the beach like almost every day. miss it a lot warmer and sunnier than it is right now. But yeah, very amazing experience. Very grateful to the program to be able to offer that to us. And I think everyone who went anywhere else, I think we had groups going to India, we had groups going to Belize, Mexico. I think we could all say the same thing as well. Very unique experience. As far as my favorite rotation experience, I did a lung transplant rotation very early on. It was my second ever rotation, so very like intimidating for sure. And that one really surprised me for sure because I hated learning about the lungs in school, and it turned out to be my favorite rotation. The team was just really cool. I think probably the biggest thing that I took away from that was just how lucky we are to be across the street from Northwestern Medicine and just the institution itself. We were one of the highest volume lung transplant centers in the country, and I think just that's a very unique experience and being able to see how the APPs worked in that team and how like respected they were by the team and doctors at large by the institution was very like special. I got to go on a procurement where we flew overnight to out of state to produce some lungs, got to scrub into that surgery, flew back to Chicago, scrubbed into the surgery, going for the donation and getting to take care of the patient like for the few days afterwards. It was very emotionally powerful, very impactful experience for me to be able to kind of see like the juxtaposition between like the tragedy of like what led to the donation to also like the hope throughout the next few days that I saw the patient that was able to receive them. So yeah.
Wonderful. I feel like I should give Bridget a rebuttal because of that comment. No, I'm just joking, but I know you guys
I
had a great time.
made I made Johnny breakfast every morning.
Let the record reflect. Hikari, so now looking back at the first year, what was your favorite class or just experience in general?
I would say my one of my favorite classes has definitely been the anatomy class with Dr. D. We do a mix of full dissection and prosection lab, but being able to do a full dissection lab really like helps me like apply what we learn in lecture and like sort of paint the full picture of what we see in real life. It makes everything click so much better and seeing like a bigger picture of like how these anatomical structures in relation to like the rest of the body and also with our lab groups or with them like the entire year. So you really kind of have this bond with them and with our donors, which is a really great experience. And Dr. D makes it a huge difference. She makes labs so much fun. We play music, have our own playlists that have themes depending on what organ system we're working on. So if we're in the cardio unit, we'll play like love songs, which is really funny. And she's just an amazing teacher and does a great job of making anatomy, which is a super tough subject. It makes it feel much more approachable in general. So that's been my favorite experience so far. And we just had like our last dissection lab like a couple weeks ago. So it's been kind of sad since it's been over.
Thanks, Hikari. And Dr. D is Dr. Angelique Duenas. So yeah, and if you join us here, you get a chance to meet her. She is awesome. Noe, speaking of playing music, what do you like to do outside of school?
I like to go to concerts. I've been to a lot of them during didactic year. And yes, there is time to have some fun. Like I went to some with Akari. We saw Fred again. I saw Kendrick Lamar for the sixth time. I also like to DJ. I like to try out new restaurants with my friends. And I also like to explore different neighborhoods in Chicago when I have the time. And then I also like challenging myself with like cooking new dishes. Lately, I've been exploring a lot of Asian cuisine and like trying to reconnect back to my roots. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Hikari, I'm going to pivot back to you. Could you take us kind of through a typical day during the first year?
Yes, of course. So, typically, like throughout the week, we have like our set days. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, we have our PBL in the morning, and then Tuesdays morning is reserved for patient assessment, and then Thursdays is anatomy, and then sort of the afternoon period after the lunch break, which is from 12 to 1. It's sort of like kind of mixed lecture. It's never the same every day, but it's a variety of either clin med or lab med or farm. But basically, usually the typical mornings usually starts at 8 or 9 and then it typically ends around 4:30 to 5. I would say we rarely have a full 8 to 5 day, which is really nice because I thought we would be 8 to 5 all the time before coming here, but usually sometimes we get out pretty early at like 3, 3:30, and sometimes we have like half days and sometimes we have a full day off such as today. But typically the morning is sort of like easing into things and then afternoon is sort of like lecture heavy. And then after lecture, I'll usually have like a little hour break and sort of like work out, do things that I like to do and then come back into studying like after dinner time. But that's typically how the day works at NUPA.
That's great. And I want to tell you, team as well. I think some of you already started. If you want to type out responses to the Q&A, because I know we won't get to all of them. So if you want to take a shot at that, that would be great. And we can answer as many questions as we possibly can. Bridget, could you tell us just a little bit about what you do outside the classroom, especially, the role you played with the Student Society or government here, and to the extent you're doing some service work, because I know that's a facet of your life.
Yeah, definitely. Service has always been a really big part of my life, and I was glad that I got the opportunity to implement that into the PA program and like my PA education at Northwestern. At the start of the year, we did like a vote and we voted on our student society. This is kind of like a group of students who wanted to have more of like a leadership role in the class, and they kind of make decisions for the class and plan different activities for the class. Johnny's also on the student society, fellow member. I'm not sure about the first years if you guys are, but so I was the health and wellness chair of the student society. There's also other positions like president, vice president, secretary, etc. Through my health and wellness chair spot on the student society, I was able to host a few events such as like a paint and sip for mental wellness in the winter, which was really fun. That was like painting with hot chocolate. So that was awesome. I put out monthly newsletters of like class positivity with positive messages and just kind of spreading good positivity for good mental health and stuff. And then along like with physical health, I hosted a run and walk club where we would run or walk on the Lakefront Trail, which is one of the best spots in Chicago. And you get like a great view of the skyline, and it's really nice just to spend some time outside, whether you're walking or running. And then we would also meet at a coffee shop after just to kind of like have time with friends and, kind of I would host it on a Saturday, so start the day off nice and stable. One of the other things I host, like I said, service is a big part of my life, and I wanted to bring that in to our cohort. So I organized a few trips to the Greater Chicago Food Depository, which is an amazing organization here in Chicago. It's a big warehouse that distributes and packs food and ships them off to all of the food pantries around Chicago. So I had the chance to join some of the other students in my cohort and pack some food for some of the food pantries, which was awesome.
Thanks so much, Bridget. And then Johnny, a final question before we open up for our general Q&A. What's next for you? What after the pants, where would you like to work? Or maybe you already have that lined up, maybe not. Well, what's next for you?
That's a great question. I have no idea. But um, my pants is scheduled for like 2 weeks after graduation, so that's basically the next step. Very early stages of looking for a job. I haven't like seriously looked yet, but we have classmates who like have things lined up already or farther along. But I think it's normal to be kind of in different stages of that right now. My lease ends here in at the end of May, so I'll move back home to Oregon for the month and then go to Asia for a few months to visit family, and then at the same time looking for a job back in Chicago. So I would love to end up in surgery, something surgical, procedural, where I'm using my hands in the inpatient setting, and yeah, we'll see where that takes me.
Indeed. And Bridget, how about you?
So I am thinking about, well, actually, I'm 100% sure that I will be going into emergency medicine or urgent care to start, but the main goal is emergency medicine. Like I said, my pre-clinical experience was in the emergency department, and I love that. I had the opportunity during clinical year to do two emergency medicine rotations and two trauma rotations. So that kind of solidified my decision to go into emergency medicine after.
Thank you. And thanks, everyone. I thought those were fabulous answers. All right, let's answer some questions from our audience. I saw this a couple times. What surprised you most about NUPA after starting? Let's get two answers to that. Hikari, what do you think about that?
What surprised me the most was honestly the community. Like coming into NUPA, everyone has been from day one, everyone was so supportive and not competitive at all. I remember like we had a group meet and everyone was sending different notes, podcasts, different resources, their Quizlets that they were using to study for classes and exams. And it was just super supportive. And also, you really get to know the faculty. Dr. Min is my advisor and my bestie at NUPA. And they really invest their time in you and because they really want you to succeed and they don't want to see you fail at all. So like the amount of times that I've gone to them for just help and just like a chit chat has just been amazing. They all have an open door policy and you get really close with them through PBL as well. So I've had great memories with my classmates and also with the faculty as well. And the community here is just super, super supportive and we're just really close. Like even from orientation week, I feel like I've gained 41 new besties after the first week of school, which is crazy. But I can see everyone being like my lifelong friends is so that's what probably surprised me the most coming to this program.
I love that a lot. Johnny, how about you?
I agree with everything that Hikari said. I think this also came up a lot too in the in your guys' questions, but I think how much, I guess, time that you have outside of school, like your personality or your life does not have to be school. And that's probably partly because of how like the testing schedule here is set up compared to other programs. We don't have several tests a week. We're not in lectures like all day, every day of the week. So I think being able to see the city a lot more than I had anticipated going into school, me able to participate in things like I'm in the orchestra with other classmates, so that's fun. Um, yeah, I think just how much time outside of school that you have. And also, I think, again, just like how resilient you are. I think there are definitely months and days where you like look ahead and see like how am I supposed to get through like that week of like tests and things to do, but then like everyone makes it pass. So I don't know, for myself, I thought like you're a lot more resilient than I had thought I was, so something to carry through for sure.
Thanks, Johnny. And now another question from the chat here. How is preparing for the pants band? Do you feel like you've been prepared well? Start with Bridget here.
I definitely feel like I've been prepared well for the pants. In the program, we do a lot of like exam prep through our didactic year. We'll do a lot of, we have these MCQ exams, which are kind of building that foundation for us of like our medical knowledge. And then once we get to clinical year, we have end of rotation exams, which kind of test our more clinical knowledge. We also have question banks that the program provides for us that we can do on our own time. And this is like to kind of mirror the pants. Overall, I think that the program has really provided a great foundation of like what to expect on the pants. Now, obviously, I haven't taken it yet, but I do feel very prepared and confident going into it.
I feel good about it for you and Johnny, so I'm not too worried. That was great. So I see Hikari's answering this, but I think it's a good one for the group too. What type of PA student succeeds at Northwestern? Noe, what do you think about that one?
Ooh, it's a loaded question. I feel like it's the dang, I'm trying to, how did I succeed in this program? It's like the person that makes it through is the person that like you realize that you're gonna, like Johnny just said, there's gonna be times where it feels impossible or it feels extremely overwhelming, but you still get up, you go to class, you still sit down and you study. It's the people who can be resilient in, challenging and stressful times like PA school. I feel like that's the kind of person that's gonna make it through this program.
Thanks, Noe. Hikari, what do you think since you were answering that question? What do you think about that?
Yeah, like I was just gonna say that there's not like one specific type of student that succeeds at NUPA. So as long as you show up wanting to learn and just being curious and commit the time to studying, then you're gonna do great. As long as you show up and like wanting to learn and ask questions, I think that's the important aspect of being just like a student and like a lifelong learner, then you're gonna do fine. Everyone has their own different ways of studying and the resources that they use. Like Noe loves Quizlet, I love Smarty Pants. Other people love Anki. So you kind of find out what works best for you and stick with that, and you're going to do great.
Thanks, Hikari. Let's see here. How much hands-on experience did you get during rotations? Either Johnny or Bridget. Who'd like to take that one?
I can take it if that's okay, Johnny. Is it cool? Okay. I felt like I got a lot of hands-on experience in rotations. I think that it all kind of goes back to what Hikari was just saying, like showing up and being genuinely excited to learn. Like your preceptors will gather that. And the more excited you are and the more like you ask questions, like the more they're gonna trust you and, get you involved in their everyday like work. It definitely depends on, what rotation you're on. So like I guess if on some rotations it might be a little less hands-on than other rotations. It really all just depends on what you are interested in personally. But in general, yeah, I think I got a really good amount of hands-on experience in clinical rotations. And from that, I feel very confident going into clinical practice because I did have the chance to practice a lot of those things. And like I said, just like asking to do them is like a really big part of it. Like if you're excited and asking to do it, like there's been times where I've asked my preceptors, like, oh, can I do this procedure or something? And like they might be like, oh, maybe you should watch one more. And that's fine. Like, but as long as I'm asking and showing that I want to do it, like that's great.
Thank you. Johnny, did you want to add anything?
No, she covered it all. But yeah, I think just like putting yourself out there, and I got to do a lot of my relatives were surgical, so a lot of the things I did were closing and holding things and suturing all that, and then in the ED doing things that like the CPR, lac repairs. So I think just like being uncomfortable is like a good thing. I think just like advocating for yourself for your learning, and the preceptors are usually pretty like receptive to that and like encouraging of you, trying things.
That's great. I see Noah's answering this, but what general advice would you give to pre-PA students who are working in their patient care experience role before school? So, Hikari, what do you think about that? And then we'll turn to Noe after that since he's answering.
I think take this time to learn as much as you can. You have sort of your clinical environment around with you, and just taking whatever the doctor or PA that you're working with, and just take it in. I feel like with PBL, like you can see how everyone's different patient care experience can show up in the way that they think about things and the differentials that they're coming up with. So I think just I wouldn't put like too much stress saying like, oh, I need to learn this in my patient care experience, but just like go through the workday and like maybe ask your doctor, okay, like how did you get to this point? Like, can you explain your thinking? And like kind of getting asking those questions to kind of get more exposure and like learn how to think more clinically and critically. I think that would be like an important advice to do, but I wouldn't put like so much stress of like, oh, I need to have this type of experience in my patient care experience. Like enjoy this time before going into PA school because you'll learn everything when you're here.
Thanks, Hikari. And Noe, I know you're typing, but what do you think?
I was just gonna say, like when I was having my answer that, I know where like when you're in your PCE, the end goal is PA, right? But I feel like you should still like give it all, like do your best effort like working in your PCE because you'll come out of your PCE with like so many like stories to tell, like in your interviews, or and you're gonna come out with experiences that are gonna be beneficial for you in PA school and working as a PA. So I liked what Hikari just said about like enjoying that time, like you know, enjoy the journey that you're on and the PCE job that you have is part of that journey, so like just enjoy it and you'll be a PA eventually. Yeah.
Thanks, Noe. And I would just add that use that time to like really cement your desire to take on healthcare as your profession, and then of course specifically to be a PA, right? Like be critical and think about whether it's the right fit for you. I mean, I read, of course, so many applications and so many stories of folks that are just starting off in healthcare. And I myself do not work in healthcare, but it's a momentous decision to head down this path, both financially and in terms of the effort that you're going to have to put in. So you want to make sure that it's the right fit for you. And there's really no better way to do it than to work alongside other healthcare professionals, especially PAs, of course, if you can, and allow that to inform your own motivation for wanting to join the profession, right? So take that opportunity. Thanks, everyone. Let's see. Let's talk about ECMH. Sorry, Noe, I'm hitting you again,
Oh
but
yeah, I'd love to
uh,
answer.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about ECMH. So, who would like to talk about their ECMH experience?
I could briefly touch on it since
Yeah.
I was already writing something. I was just gonna say like, for my USMH, which I have with Hikari actually, we get to like a day before ECMH, we'll get told by like the senior med student or whatever, like who we're going to see. And then, I'll spend, 30 minutes maybe like looking in, digging into the patient's chart that I'm going to see. So I'm prepared for that encounter. And then we go to ECMH in the afternoon. Everybody presents their patient. And then, when your appointment comes in, usually I'm paired with another med student and you'll work together to interview the patient. Sometimes, like, they'll have me do the whole interview based on how comfortable I am, and then they're going to work on the note and maybe add a couple questions in there. Maybe the roles are going to be flipped. Maybe you're all like working together to evaluate the patient. And then you go back to your physician, report your findings, and then you write a note or yeah.
That's great. Bridget or Johnny, reflecting on the 2 years here, what do you think about ECMH?
I can talk about this one. I think it was very valuable going once a month. I think even within didactic, just to kind of practice everything that we learned about in terms of patient interviews. And, a lot of us have, I mean, all of us have had like patient care experience going into PA school. I think it's just different being on the provider side of that. I think it definitely set me up for going into rotations and learning how to like, take a history and developing my own kind of flow with that. I also saw it as like an opportunity to kind of advocate for our profession. A lot of med students like didn't know what a PA did or is. So I think being able to kind of show our capabilities like early on in their careers can set them up as well, like as they transition to being doctors and, better with, you know, transition to that collaboration in their own practice in the future. So
Wonderful. Another question in the chat, thinking about, I'm not trying to pick on you, Noe, but he's answering another one. Transition into the program, right? Starting didactic year, which is a lot. It is a lot, folks. And I think that's not just Northwestern, that's any PA program, but certainly here as well. And then the transition between the first year and the second year, didactic and clinical. Let's start with the second part first. Bridget, how was your transition from didactic to clinical?
So my transition, it went pretty well. My first rotation was surgery, which is one of like the probably harder rotations. And Johnny could probably speak to this too, because he did a lot of like surgical rotations. But I think that the program made it way easier for me. And it's one of those things too, where like now I'm at the end of my clinical year, I'm about to graduate. Looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back to my surgery rotation and like do it again with all of the knowledge that I have now, like that I've built from all my other clinical rotations. But as far as the transition, like I said, I think that PBL really helps in that like foundational, like knowing how to like what questions to ask, what physical exams to do. And then other than that, my rotation was at Northwestern, so it was really helpful to like kind of bounce ideas off the residents, and like the residents and attendings are awesome at like helping you learn and kind of, they'll answer your questions and they're just really open to being in that learning environment. So I think the transition went pretty well.
Thank you so much, Hikari. How was the adjustment to the start here? How did the first, let's say, 2 months go?
It definitely was an adjustment for sure. It's been a long time since I've been in class from 8 to 5 p.m. But I think I would say like PBL definitely makes it a difference because they sort of ease us into PBL and our facilitators really take more of like a hands-on role with us. So guiding our questions, guiding our discussions a bit more before like they kind of lay back off in the following months. And so at least we're not in lecture from 8 to 5 all day, every day, which was nice. But we kind of just jumped into it a little bit. But I think you kind of get used to it after a couple of weeks and then it becomes like your everyday. And then once you have a schedule with like things that you do outside of class, it becomes a little bit easier and more manageable. But I will say like PBL does help a lot as our facilitators help guide our discussions and our questions. And PBL is typically longer too in the beginning because it helps us adjust more since we're just starting and like more time for presenting our LIs. So that definitely helps a little bit more with that.
Thanks, Hikari. And I see Johnny's answering this one too. I've heard not only our students, but students from other PA programs say that, they're surprised by how much they actually do remember when they go on to clinical year or into practice after graduation. Can either Johnny or Bridget, can you speak to that a little bit?
yeah, I'll just say my answer out loud instead of typing. 'Cause I suck at typing. But basically, I think really the paradigm shifts throughout didactic that I think helped us a lot in clinical was it's really less about memorizing everything because that's just impossible to do wherever you go. Like nowhere, I don't know, unless you're harder than me, but it's really more about like where to find information. I think that PBL really helped with with that, doing that every week and presenting LIs and being familiar with like the guidelines and like our databases. And I'm looking stuff up in rotations all the time. I'm looking up stuff that like I probably should know, but the reality of medicine and practice is that like you have an arsenal of information at your disposal for you to utilize. And I think that we did a good job, I think, of being able to exercise that throughout didactic as well as in rotations. As far as just retaining the stuff that we need to know, I think that the program also did a really good job about that in PBL, which is unique because you're reinforcing the things that like you will see like throughout every unit throughout the entire year. So it's not just like cardio and just, I don't know, ortho concepts throughout the PBL cases. It's just there's a lot of like underlying things that you see like all year. So I think that sets us up for like having a good basis of knowledge to go off of if we need to look stuff up. But yeah, not about memorizing. I think about knowing where to look for information and like knowing what questions to ask is really the more important part.
Thanks, Johnny. Bridget, I see you finished with peds. Were you able to think back to that part of the curriculum and apply that knowledge?
Yeah, so for context, PEDS is like the last unit of didactic year, and I just finished it like last week. So it was kind of a big jump. I got a little bit of an advantage because the ER that I did my clinical rotation on, there was a little bit of PEDS there, and my ECMH was a family medicine ECMH, so I got a little bit of PEDS exposure there as well. Johnny covered a lot of like knowing where to find the resources and stuff like that. But the other thing to keep in mind too is that like a lot of these things that are like important things that like you just have to know off the top of your memory, you're not only seeing these things just once. It is constantly coming up and coming up and coming up and like you're reviewing it and like if it's something that you have time to look up and you can do that, that might just be something that, you have to look up a couple times before you start memorizing it or before have that down. But for like let's say like the red flag signs that like the not miss signs on a patient, like that is constantly being reinforced in your mind. So, yeah, I mean, with pediatrics, it was definitely like a learning curve because, like I said, I hadn't seen it in a while. But I think once I started like re-looking at the guidelines and talking to the residents, it all kind of started coming back to me like in dribs and drabs. And eventually I felt confident with it again.
Thanks, Bridget. So we mentioned peer mentorship, or I mentioned peer mentorship during the presentation, this big sibling, little sibling program. So Hikari and Noe are about to get a child, so to speak, get their little sib. Hikari, I'll start with you. Like, what are you going to tell your little sib?
I think right now I'm gonna tell my little sib before they come into PA school just to enjoy this time and have fun, take the trips, hang out with friends and family before coming to school because time is very limited once you're in school. And then also just take it easy, don't be hard on yourself. I think when I first came in, I had a lot of imposter syndrome of like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm here. Like PA is like crazy. Like I don't like I can't believe I'm doing this. So just try to take it easy, take it day by day, honestly, hour by hour, because a lot of emotions change as the week and days go on. And then just don't be so hard on yourself. PA, it's not sort of like there's no need to be a competitive environment. We're not like the med students. So obviously it's important to do well in school, but it's not an end all be all if like you don't get the A, which was like an important thing that like my big instilled in me when I first started. So that's some advice I'd give. And then also just have fun while you're in school. You're only in school for this one last time with friends for this one last time. So just enjoy it before working for the rest of your life.
I love that. And I'll just reinforce that collaborative comment because I used to work with undergraduates who were mostly pre-meds and the kind of fierce competition that goes on there. I don't know, I can't speak for what it's like to be a medical student, but really truly here, your success is, your peers' success and vice versa. No one's competing for the next opportunity or job, and that creates a very positive environment where people are happy to collaborate together and work together as a team. So, Noe, what advice or counsel are you going to give to your little sib?
I would tell my little sib that you gotta prioritize like self-care. Because when I first started in the program, like I felt like I was just always studying. Like I felt like I always had to study. I like disregarded my hobbies. I didn't go to the gym with my classmates. And at the end of the day, I felt like that like hurt me more than, helping me. And, once I started prioritizing like self-care more and like being intentional about my free time, like someone asked, like I answered a question earlier about like, how do you make time for hobbies and stuff? Like you have to be intentional about it. Like I always make an effort to be like, hey, like you guys want to try a restaurant on Friday? You want to go to Roberts again? Love Roberts.
I
Um,
knew you'd work Roberts into this.
I was
I
like, I need to
knew it.
mention it today.
He's probably getting paid right now. This is
I
Robert's Pizza.
wish, I wish. But yeah, just like, I'll ask stuff like that or be like, or if someone like asks me like, do you want to go do something? I just like, yeah, why not? Like it always works out. It will always work out. Like Johnny always like told me this. He's like, it's not that deep. So it really isn't. Like, this is, you're building your career here and professional program and all that, but you gotta, I think prioritizing yourself and self-care is just as important to your success, besides just academics and studying. So, yeah.
Thank you. I like that. It's not that deep, right? It's important, but it's not everything, right? I
Yeah.
echo that. I need to remind myself of that sometimes. But I'm going to answer one of the questions from the chat that I see Hikari is answering it because I'm going to just try to sum it up really quickly. It's about exams here at our program. I'll try to do it justice and I'll have the students jump in. And then I'm going to close out. I'm going to ask our panelists here why they chose to come join us here. And I'm so glad that they did. So, exam. So during the first year, the way our system works is every approximately 8 weeks, you take a major, what's called a multiple choice question or MCQ comprehensive exam that covers most of the subjects that you're studying on an ongoing basis. So that works out because of the math to six of these major exams during the first year. Preceding those exams, usually by 2 or 3 weeks, are separate, somewhat shorter exams in physiology and anatomy, which collectively make up what we call basic science here. Those are often separated out because they tend to be some of the most detail-oriented and rich and challenging courses in our curriculum. So think of those as the three major types of exams during the first year. You take the big one on an 8 week rolling basis, and then these somewhat smaller ones a few weeks before that. And then there's a build up for several weeks into that cycle during each academic trimester and then during the entire year. There are other quizzes and exams, but that's getting smaller bore. During the second year, after you complete each of your required rotations, so emergency medicine, family medicine, pediatrics, just to name three, you take what's called an end of rotation exam. This is a standardized exam, 120 question, 2 hour exam that's authored at the national level and it's given or administered across the United States of America to PA students. So you'll have seven of those because you have seven required rotations. And then you'll take a couple other exams along the way during the second year as well. And then, of course, post graduation, you're looking ahead to the national certifying exam. Was that a decent approximation? Yeah, there's some other stuff going on, but that's really the big thing. I will note that after every PBL case, on the Monday following, you have a brief 10 question multiple choice question quiz covering the prior case. So let me now close out. Thanks for everyone that stuck around for the entire time. And I just want to say, lest I forget, I really want to thank our panelists here. So thank you, Hikari, Bridget, Johnny, and Noe. I appreciate your time, your insights. I thought you've given some really wonderful answers tonight and represented the program really well. So thank you so much. Couldn't do any of this without you. Why did you choose to come here? Hikari, I'll start with you.
I really liked how Northwestern has like a really mixed curriculum of PBL and lecture. So you kind of get a little bit of everything and then also ECMH tied into it. And then also I lived in big cities before, so coming from New York, coming from Miami, Chicago was just calling my name to be the next chapter of my life. And then during my interview, I really could see talking with alumni and also Dr. D who interviewed me, you could see how really the community shaped like the students there and how close knit and how supportive the environment was. Also, like Mr. Gunn, who ran like the mock PBL case, which was really nice and fun, and how he's so interactive with our class. I just love that. And then, moreover, NUPA was one of the only programs that still had international rotation. So I'll be going to Cape Town next January, which is exciting. So can't wait for that. And that's why I chose NUPA.
Nice. I hope you have a wonderful trip. Johnny, let's turn it to you.
I'll try not to go on and on, but yeah, I did. It's lucky enough to have like a few interviews. So basically, I was between here and another school, and I think I visited the other school and did a day with them before coming to our campus visit. So I had put deposits for both, but truly, I think just like the communication throughout the interview process, and also just when I came here, I think just seeing the students have how down to earth they were, and just how like well the like relationship between the professors and the students were, and how small and intimate the class felt was something that I didn't see across the other programs that I interviewed at. And I think just, and there's so much like coming to my mind, but like having 11 rotations, for electives, like really, especially like I didn't know what I wanted to do specialty wise going into PA school. So I think having the four electives, especially at a big institution like Northwestern, was a really big pro for me. And then also just like, I mean, the people for sure. I think that everyone here is just so down to earth. And I like was very intimidated about like, Northwestern and all the things before. And I didn't go to like, a fancy school. So I had, my own preconceptions before coming here. But everyone here truly like the support that I saw in my interviews between like the classmates on my campus visit, it was just the camaraderie is just something that is just so special. And I think that if you'll ask anyone, like the favorite part about the program is the people for sure, and like we would not be here without like our classmates, and also just the faculty, and they're very involved, and they're very, I mean, they've been very like hand-holding with me when I needed it, which is very helpful. And I've never felt like abandoned throughout my process here. Like it's a very hard undertaking, but I have felt supported like my entire way through and through, and they continue to support me like throughout, even after graduation. So I feel like that's very special. So
Wonderful to hear that. Bridget, how about you? And we'll close out with Noe.
Yeah, so similar to Donnie, I could go on. But I wrote a quick list so to stay on track. So first,
This
I
is
think
this is very Bridget of you.
yeah, yeah. First, I think I had a bit of a unique situation because I actually worked at Northwestern prior to starting school there. I had a job, like through my research job, I was technically a university employee, but I was in the hospital, so I kind of got to see like both sides of like Northwestern culture. And through that, I like knew that I loved the culture at Northwestern. I knew that, this is where I felt like I belonged and I loved learning in this environment. So when I got into Northwestern, I like Sam, you probably remember. I actually started crying. Like it was just my dream school from the start, probably just because I had already been exposed to the environment and I knew that it was a great environment to learn in. Second was the opportunity to train at one of the best universities and one of the best hospitals, like quite literally in the country, was like a cannot miss opportunity. I mean, we get the experience within Northwestern Hospital, which is, and also including Prentice Women's Hospital and Lurie Children's Hospital, which is, I mean, those are some of the best hospitals in the country. So that was something that I really was looking forward to. And it like definitely showed in my clinical year. I learned from some of the most amazing clinicians, being PAs, residents, doctors, all of those, and like across the span. And having that opportunity was just amazing. Oh yeah, and Johnny said the APP culture at Northwestern is very strong. So like they really, really appreciate the work of APPs. So that is much appreciated. Like Johnny said, the four electives, I love having the opportunity to kind of branch out and see things that I've never seen before. And then lastly, while it wasn't like the biggest thing to me, but I did really want to stay into Chicago near my family and near where I grew up. And I might be biased, but I think Chicago is the best city ever. So yeah, being able to stay in Chicago was a big advantage for me also.
Yay. And Noe probably took some of your reasons, but what do you got?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna be repeating like what everybody said here, which were great answers. But it's in downtown Chicago. I've always wanted to live in a big city, and the school is literally in the middle, in the heart of the city. So, besides that, like Bridget said, this is a top of the line institution. You get people that like travel like between states to get to come to Northwestern. And I don't know where I heard this, but I always joke around and say that like this is the Purple Palace just because of like how highly regarded Northwestern is. But also the faculty really made me, it was evident to me like speaking with them that they want you to do well. They're gonna do everything they can to like get you out of here and get you that PAC, attached to your name. With it being a small program, and I just knew that I was going to get to know the faculty very well. And like life doesn't stop when you're in PA school, right? And they're there for you when like challenges come up, and they work with you. They don't want you to, it's not, I feel like at some programs that I like, they like scared you that like if you didn't pass this test, you're gonna, there's a chance that you're gonna like fail out or something. But here, like, I was never worried about failing out. Like, I feel like, if that were to happen, like I knew that like I'd get the support that I needed, and I just never had that fear. I knew the support here is amazing, and I feel like that was the biggest reason for me coming here.
Thank you, everybody. That was wonderful. I will say for my part, I worked at Northwestern for 15 years, and it's just being here with the team here, all the way from that phone call to make the offer. This Saturday, we have our alumni dinner. I get to see some of the folks that I worked with here just a few years ago who are out there practicing at the very beginning of their careers. And it's tremendously rewarding to be able to play a role in that and to say, like, I know you guys, and we're a team, we work together, and that's what medicine, and life should be about. So that's why I love working here. So, again, thank you so much to my panelists. Thank you out there for accompanying us this evening. I hope this was helpful for you and gave you some insight into who we are at this program and how we learn medicine. If you're applying this year, good luck to you. If you're applying in a future year, good luck to you as well. If you're thinking about becoming a PA, maybe this encouraged you a little bit more. Get out there, shadow, meet PAs, talk to them, understand what the work is all about. We are Northwestern. We are the Wildcats. They are too at Arizona. I know, no, I see you didn't have to transition, but as we say around these parts, go Cats. Have a great evening. Take care, everybody. Thank you.